What, do you know that kid or something?
I hope his pants get caught and a bloodbath ensues.
What is with you today?
Don't get me wrong, I don't wish the kid harm, but his mother should suffer that horrific ordeal so she'll learn how to manage her child.
Sort of a harsh lesson, don't you think?
Man, there's not a year goes by, not a year, that I don't read about some escalator accident involving some bastard kid that could have been easily avoided had some parent, I don't care which one, but some parent conditioned him to fear and respect that escalator. Wow, look who it is.
Welcome back to the VHS Club. I'm winning tonight. I auto-corrected Mallrats to Mallards. I didn't, but if you caught that, that's our own Easter egg for you.
On our little
You're
ticker
welcome.
tape at the
You're
top
welcome.
of the screen. Oh, that was funny.
Oh, you're here hanging out at the VHS Club, and we are rewatching movies that we've likely already seen. But it sounds like Josh, who's hanging out in our live studio audience. So shout out to Josh. Josh has not seen any of Kevin Smith's movies, so now's your chance, Josh. We now's your chance. Dan chose this one for tonight, and we have feelings and thoughts. Welcome to the Mallrats episode, everyone. Welcome. How's it going, Nat? Smoochy Moochy.
Going good. I have to say, when we were rewatching this, I was like, this might go really badly. I remember the iconic scenes. I remember, obviously the escalator, the damn kid on the escalator. You remember a lot of the iconic stuff. It actually held up, and not just held up, because I was like, for sure, this is going to be some like bro 90s, like raunchy
macho.
comedy.
Yep.
And it's not. I like immediately at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, Kevin Smith films from the female gaze. He loves and appreciates women. He loves strong, intelligent women. He gave all the best dialogue predominantly to women in this film. I'm like, that was a pleasant surprise. I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, also it was
holds
raunchy.
up.
It was hilarious. It was, it was funny.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm already laughing. So keep it coming. Paul is hanging out with us here in live studio audience as always, and he says he may never eat a chocolate covered pretzel again.
No.
Me neither. Definitely some iconic moments. I like chocolate covered pretzels, but it came rushing back to me at the end of this movie. I was like, oh no.
I mean, maybe this instilled some sort of trauma for me, and I just never liked them. But also, pretzels are just really dry. I don't get it. I'm like, salty, good; dry, bad. Why do people like eating sawdust?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think I could do the movie recap this time around.
Let's do it.
I'm getting better at keeping it brief. Are you all ready? So this one is the second movie in a, not really a series, but I guess a series of movies that are all in kind of the same universe. And they're all written and directed by Kevin Smith, who we just said is iconic. This movie stars two very deluded, slightly broken men whose girlfriends have broken up with them for all the obvious reasons, and they are spending the day in their favorite place, the mall, thinking about it and talking about it and trying to figure out whether or not they want to win their girlfriends back. And it's just glorious. There's this whole collection of Mallrats who spend all of their time in the mall in one way or the other, and every character is good. There's in my humble opinion, there is not a single character that I'm like, oh come on, like eye roll. They're all great in their own way. Even Ben Affleck, who does a cameo, I guess, really as like the iconic bad guy in the movie. He is fantastic in this. Yeah, he's a total douche. Yeah. And other than like a couple of words that we don't use anymore, like it's pretty solid. Yeah. And as Nat was saying, the dialogue in this movie, I think, is what really gets it for me. Like, if you have not yet figured this out about Nat and I, welcome. We are really big fans of movies that have like really strong character driven movies with really even somewhat over the top dialogue that's quotable like and fun to listen to, fast paced, deep conversations. And this movie delivers on all of those fronts. So take it or leave it. If this is, if this is not a thing that you're into and you're looking for like some kind of super deep plot, this is not the film for you. But if you're looking for just like really great dialogue and really iconic spaces and places that give you all the feels, this is a solid choice. Good job, Dan.
I mean, I do feel that there is, so at the beginning of the movie, like you see the guys are, to use a very commonly used word now that none of us knew then, the boys don't have any emotional intelligence. And that's like a stereotype that men are not emotionally intelligent. I mean, it's also kind of a fact that men have on average lower emotional intelligence than women. And that immediately is like one of the first things that Kevin Smith presents us with. Like these two guys, they're best friends, both their girlfriends break up with them on the same day, for, I mean, different little reasons, but basically because their boyfriends are emotionally stunted. Mm-hmm. And I find that's actually really interesting. And it's sort of this like personal growth that these guys go through this movie with all their little hijinks in and around the mall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's a very palatable way to feed the audience this concept that there's nothing wrong with being a man and understanding feelings. It's interesting. Like, again, I was really surprised rewatching this movie that that's what this movie was about. I'm like, oh, Kevin Smith, good for you, in for the win.
And
it's still a topic that we fight. Like, we have to fight for this conversation every day, still today, over, like, 30 years later? We're still talking about the same crap. But Kevin Smith got it back then, which is impressive.
1995. It's kind of clever because, like you said, they learn from each other. So these two kind of, like, you as you said perfectly, they both were dumped for completely different reasons, but really the same reason, in that they weren't paying enough attention to their girlfriends. They didn't understand them. They were just being kind of idiots.
It's not even that they didn't understand the girls. They just didn't understand how they felt themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Really, how they felt themselves. But what I love about this is that, so like they learn from each other, but they also learn from this collection of Mallrat friends that they have, who and included in this are like ex-girlfriends, like so it's a great collection of kind of both men and women of different ages, and like each one imparts some kind of Stan Lee, isn't it? Each one imparts some kind of like sage level wisdom to them, and it's just kind of glorious to see this. I don't know, I love kind of the community growth aspect of it, where they all like learn together and they're all like having these experiences, and it's sort of nice to see.
That was the mall, though. The mall was
I know, the mall.
The social epicenter of like every suburb, guaranteed. It was where kids went to go meet and to hang out, and because there wasn't really any other space to do it. And then I remember in the 90s, like at least our mall, they were kind of cracking down security as like no loitering, and it's like, well, where else are we supposed to all hang out? There's like 20 of us, like where are we supposed to go? And I find that was kind of actually the downfall of malls, is when they started kicking teenagers from hanging out in malls. Like, a little crazy, but
I think the mall really is its own character in this movie, which is absolutely fantastic.
It really is. And it's like something that's so lost and forgotten. It's
Mm-hmm.
not at all this anymore. But so speaking of characters, let's look through this pretty iconic cast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like so Jeremy London, who was like the 90s heartthrob,
Absolutely.
which lest we forget, he was also a model and I think had a twin brother who was
He had
also an actor and
he had a
model.
twin brother who was in one of the other shoot. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I could
Paul
never
can
tell the
fact
difference.
Paul can fact check me, but I believe he's in one of the twin is in one of the other Kevin Smith
Yeah.
movies. So
They're
yeah.
identical twins, if I remember.
Yeah.
We have Jason Lee, who
Is my favorite.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
I know Jeremy London was the token Hawkeye, but let's be honest, Jason Lee's very pretty.
I'm in it for
Like,
I'm in it for
so
like
good
the
looking.
sarcastic,
Snark.
snarky, funny guy. So we'll just that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Team Jason.
And the so Shannon Doherty was in it, who was, like 90210 famous at the time.
Yeah. They even
we
call
have-
her Brenda at one point in the movie, which is
Which is
fantastic.
hilarious.
Yeah.
We had, gosh, who else was? Well, I mean, Kevin Smith, but he was in his own movie. He was freshly famous off of his indie film Clerks.
Yeah. Clerks had come out the year prior or 2 years prior. So, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like the acclaim that Kevin Smith has today. Like Clerks,
No.
Clerks has always been like a bit of an indie film, and certainly, his movies got more popular and more of a cult following as they went forward. So he was by no means famous. He doesn't talk. I think he has like one line or two lines in this entire movie as well. So
No, well, he's called Silent
he's
Bob. in
called
this movie,
Silent
so he
Bob.
doesn't
Yeah.
actually talk. He kind of grunts while he's trying to use the force, like,
Mhm.
but that's about it. We
Yeah.
had Claire
Claire
Forlani.
Forlani, yep. Gorgeous. She's
Stunning.
ridiculous.
She was also
Yeah.
kind of the it girl of the
Mhm.
time in these sort of 90s movies.
Mhm.
I had recognized her because she's British. She's English, I believe. She's from she's from other things. This was kind of more of her sort of intro to American things,
Mhm.
which I always bothered me how terrible her accent is, because I'm like, you sound like you're hiding it poorly. Like her enunciation of certain words, I'm like, well, that's proper. But beautiful, gorgeous. And then we had Joey Lauren Adams, who played Gwen. She's the one with that
Mhm.
sort of like husky yet squeaky voice.
She's
the one where
in Chasing Amy as well.
she's in a ton of
Yeah.
things. She was also in a ton of TV too. I remember, I'm like, because she'd been on like every CSI and Law and Order as well, like everybody, I suppose. But
Sure.
anyways, it was just such a really good cast, and it was so yeah,
And
it
Ben
was
Affleck.
just, it's interesting. Yeah, and Ben Affleck. He wasn't famous at the time.
No.
I mean, he was famous for playing the douchebag in this. I think of the Kevin Smith, like, sort of saga of films, he was finally famous when they made Dogma,
Oh,
which
that's a
came
good
out,
one.
was that after this one? I can't even remember, but it was a significant period.
Yeah, Dogma
And
is
then
after
he-
Dogma is after this one. I don't know if it's right after. Josh
I don't think it's right
has told
after,
me
but-
that. So Clerks came out in 1994, so and this one is 1995. So it's Clerks and then Mallrats, and I believe Dogma might be Chasing Amy and then Dogma. Someone will correct.
Oh
us
yes,
there, but-
Chasing Amy and then Dogma, you're right.
Yeah.
I remember Dogma had Alanis Morissette, and Matt Damon was also in it, because I think they were fresh off of how about Them Apples?
Yeah.
Whatever. What was that? Good Will Hunting. Like, oh man.
I can't even answer because it's just too great. How about them apples? Let's rename the movie. That's a good name.
I do also love, like, this early on in Ben Affleck's career, like the Boston accent was like, he couldn't not, like, it was just like, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was.
Well,
Anyways,
And we should talk a little bit. So Dan, who's hanging out with us in our live studio audience, if you want to hang out in the live studio audience, you've got to be here on YouTube with us most Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, while we're recording. So if you're like, hey, wait a second, what the heck? This is why. You have to hang out with us. So Dan told us that we should watch this one, and we were like, absolutely, we need to rewatch this one. So Dan was pointing out, which is one of the facts that he sent in advance, that Jersey, as you may not be aware, Nat, and I'm only more recently aware, is like the mall state. And so this movie pretends to take place in Jersey. It does not actually. It was actually filmed at a mall in Minnesota. And what's really funny about this entire situation is that I guess the reason that they chose Minnesota is that the mall that they filmed in was largely like probably on the verge of going out of business. Like it had very few actual businesses, so they faked
It was one of those
a whole bunch of
abandoned malls
business. Yeah,
in America.
well, like not entirely, but like it had so few businesses that they're like, oh, we can put in whatever we want, different businesses.
Yeah.
But people who were still coming to the mall, I guess, like while they were filming, they
Ended
were.
up in it.
No, well, not even I assume that they knew that they were filming a movie there, but they were going around putting fake license plate stickers on the front and back of people's like on their license plates because they wanted any outdoor shots to make sure that it all looked like Jersey plates. And I suppose some people just drove off with the fake New Jersey license plates, which is fantastic.
Hilarious.
Probably one of my favorite facts. But yeah, it sounds like, so Dan was saying that it was 100%, 1,000% Jersey culture. I can't name all the towns around where I grew up, but I can name all the malls I went to. Yeah. So we in the West Island of Montreal, one
suburban
mall. Just one big one. There was like a strip mall.
There's a few malls. Well, there's also what I found super funny and relatable in this movie is, so the mall security are chasing them for various reasons.
There's a lot of mall security. I guess they were filming something, but
they're, so they're also chasing them. And so they leave the mall only to go to another mall. They go to the flea market mall. And I don't know if you remember, we used to have a flea market. We used to have a flea market mall here.
I love a flea market. I
used to buy my comics there too, like at the flea market mall.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I'm Jason Lee.
And video games. We used to buy like Nintendo games there.
Yeah.
At the flea market mall. Yeah, I miss that.
Yes.
I miss malls, but I definitely miss the flea market mall as well.
Much more than the actual mall. Malls were crazy. Mall culture was such a thing, like getting like even like the setting up the stage and to film a TV show there. And like they used to film stuff like that, like episodes of game shows at the mall. We used to have like celebrity appearances and autograph signings.
Yeah.
And we used to have like concerts. So go with me on this journey. It's 1994 or 93 or 94. Joey Lawrence, not only was he a famous movie star or TV star, he is also the hottest pop idol. I can't remember a single song he put out.
No, I can't either, but he was very cute.
We went to go see him at the mall. Not Katie and I, my friend Tanya and I.
Oh, I was there. We just weren't there together, but I was there at the mall.
We went to go see Joey Lawrence perform in the food court of the mall.
Sure
and
did.
He didn't get to perform because the crowd was so insane.
Yeah, it wasn't
that
organized.
Security had to walk him in and then like drag him out.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we were late getting there, and we were at the back security door that led to go downstairs and get out of the mall, literally just the back stairwell that were no public access. So we were right next to there, practically standing in the toilet, and Joey Lawrence walks by and stopped and said hi to us. So nobody else got a Joey Lawrence performance, but he said hi.
See, I didn't even get
also
a hi.
I looked like I was 11 because I was 11, so he was just stopping to say hi to cute little kids being ah! But man, malls were crazy. Also, when I worked at the mall, and this was back when in our store we had to wear rollerblades because it was cool. When was that, 99 or 2000?
Yeah, somewhere there. Yeah.
And we had lanyards with all of our flair on it, which is another 90s movie reference. But so with all of our flair, and we had headsets to talk to each other in the store because it was this massive, massive store. And S Club 7 was signing autographs at the record shop, and we went up to go see. We didn't know who was there, but we knew it was mayhem in the mall. So we just went up, and people thought we were mall security, and we're like, obviously we're security, hold up our lanyards like it's a badge. People let us in. We just got to the front of the line. We're like, oh, it's S Club. And they're like, oh, do you want autographs? We're like, we're good.
I love S Club 7.
I do like S Club. They're cute. But yeah, malls were very different than they are now. I don't even know how they're open anymore, but
they're not really. There are a few of them here and there.
3/4 of the stores are closed.
Yeah, they're not really. They're not the same vibe. Oh man. Well, I'm trying to even I just thoroughly enjoyed this one from start to finish. I'm trying to think about specific things. I love the elevator scene. I love I love the recall on it. So again, like I think what makes this movie for me so brilliant is the dialogue and like how smart it is from start to finish. But so the scene we showed you at the beginning of the episode where he's complaining about the kid that's sitting on the escalator, it's like probably, I don't even know, 30 minutes later into the movie where there's like security guards running past them and they're like, hurry, there's a kid stuck in the escalator. Like it's just like the ridiculousness of the recall on this movie is fantastic, like from start to finish. Jay and Silent Bob are awesome. Like everything about their characters should, like, if you explained it to me, should make me be like, I don't know, this doesn't sound like something for me.
They don't even belong in this movie.
They don't even belong
in
this movie.
They're not even a part of the movie. They just are like two guys that everybody else in the movie actually, like, they know them.
Yeah.
Like, their characters are more like of sort of this stoner jokes and
but they save
like
the day.
Nerd sci-fi stuff. And what I loved about the elevator scene, was Shannon Doherty's rapid fire delivery of a full-on monologue. I don't know how a human can speak that fast. That was so impressive and intelligent. And I also love so she just broke up with Brody, Jason Lee, and he sees her waiting because she's started dating that same day Ben Affleck, who's the douchebag that works at the fancy men's clothing store. So TS goes to distract him while Brody goes to get on the elevator with her, and so he could talk to her and try and win her back. And Ben Affleck asks, like, did she get on the elevator? Maybe she already got off. And Jeremy London just like TS, he flat out is like, she's probably getting off. Like, and it's so non-pulsed, and the scene switches immediately. It's like, if you don't, like, you have to pay attention to hear these things. And it's funny because Jeremy London's character TS didn't have a lot of the like fast talking quick wit, you know, like he wasn't the whip smart dialogue. He wasn't an idiot in the movie either, but
subtle but
brilliant. It was more Brody, played by Jason Lee, that had the sort of like quick snarky comebacks and the sarcasm and the wit. But I really enjoyed that.
They're fantastic. Well, there's a fact I was sharing with you before we jumped on that made me really sad, so I'll share it with everyone here. I was just saying how much I absolutely loved Jay and Silent Bob, and so Silent Bob is played by Kevin Smith, who is the writer and director of this movie, and Jay is played by Jason Mewes, who's absolutely incredible in this role, from start to finish, and is just, like I said, he makes me like him, even though I have never been like a big fan of stoner culture, and I'm like a total prude when it comes to all of that. So I have no reason to like him, and yet I do anyway. But apparently they just did not and I don't think that certainly wasn't Kevin Smith, who's very good friends with Jason in real life, but I believe it was the studio did not want him in this role, so they actually hired Seth Green for this role and just had him on call for when they assumed that Jason would screw up the role. And I'm so happy that didn't happen, but I'm just so angry on both actors' behalf that Seth Green, who is an absolute sweetheart in real life from everything that I can see, would have to own that feeling of just being like, ugh, I don't like this, but okay. And Jason having to have that over his shoulder was just kind of an awful part of this entire movie that I wish was not a thing. But I'm thrilled and happy that it didn't work out the way I guess it could have, and I'm super grateful to the team for fighting for him, because I really think he's incredible in all these movies, and as we've said, there's a bunch of them. And it gets better. So not to say Seth Green is also fantastic, I'm a huge fan of his as well, but it would have been a very different movie with him.
I also feel, because Clerks, the first movie that made Kevin Smith, was an independent film. It was filmed in a box, basically, it took all place. It was in black and white, which was they said was an artistic choice. It was just basically a guy who works at a video store talking, which he was in this. He played contestant number 3 in the dating game. It was the same. That was the lead guy from Clerks.
Yeah, and they make it seem as though they're cousins, because again, it's a crossover universe. So so in Clerks, his name is Dante, and Dante Hicks, and in this one, it was Gil Hicks. So they're supposed to be related. Yeah, there's a bunch of like
So
crossover.
Jason Mewes was already in it, established as Jay of the iconic Jay and Silent Bob, which is in huge part what like their goofy, lovable like hijinks kind of in the background of Clerks is what made Clerks. You know, like it wasn't just and the dialogue, of course, because the dialogue is his thing. But to replace him in this movie after that's already established, and you're banking not just on hiring like all the hottest, you know, teen heartthrobs to be in this movie, but you're also banking on the cult following that Kevin Smith has built from Clerks to be in to come to this. And it's like, why? But if you got rid of Jason Mewes, like if you got rid of Jay, that would really have ruined it. You know, like that would have, that would have shook the movie from its like tight knit group that it came with. So
yeah, there were apparently, I'm not going to list off like all the different actors because like every movie there was like a bajillion of, you know, now very famous actors who you know, auditioned and were in the running for almost all of these roles. But one thing that I didn't realize, because once again I'm not even kind of observant, and I don't think anyone would actually get this, so in my defense, but I kept wondering and thinking like, so Jason Lee's character Brody is wearing this like kind of weird looking t-shirt throughout the entire movie with like a corduroy jacket over it, and I'm like, I love the corduroy, what's with the t-shirt? And I was the whole time I'm like, maybe it's a comic book thing. I'm not a big comic book
corduroy
person.
His skater shoes, which is like
so the t-shirt, the guy on the t-shirt, so now I need to go back and look at it again. The guy in the t-shirt is apparently a collection of every single actor that auditioned for the Brody role merged into one face. I think that is like the best thing ever. Like, I hope he still has that shirt.
Who were the actors?
I don't have all of them, but yeah, looking through, there was like a bunch of pretty big names. I'll have to follow up and post, but it was absolutely amazing. It was like, that is fantastic. Yeah. I'm looking at Josh's comment. It's so true. Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith are one of those teams that always work together. They're so like, I don't know, they're so pure in like their best friendness that it's fair. And they're so willing to help out any friend at any point. They're like, oh yeah, we were gonna break that stage up anyway. we were gonna help out with that as it was. Yeah, they're absolutely just perfect all the way through.
I do love Brody is a huge comic book fan, a little obsessive with it.
Yeah.
And he finds out at the comic book store, he goes, you know, he just wanted to go to the mall to help TS forget about both of them being dumped. And he goes to the comic book store and there's this massive line and it says, at least 1 hour wait. And he's like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, the guy's in there. And they're like, who? And then he finds out it's Stan Lee and he's like devastated because he's like, I'm not waiting in this line. I can't, and I'm going to miss it. And I can't believe I didn't know. But then later, like, he bumps into Stan Lee, which was by design from TS to help Brody with his, you know, emotional growth. So Stan Lee gives him this sort of like iconic speech, which was apparently from one of the comics. Where he's like, you know, I'm really upset about the one that I gave away, the one that got away, and the girlfriend that got away, that could have been his person, and how he, to help get over it, he created all these characters like Dr. Doom, and all of his hard exterior shell was to help him survive his emotional damage from losing this girl and his hurt and whatever. So he goes through this whole speech that basically encourages Brody to be like, oh my God, like, being in love with her is not a problem. Like, it's okay. And I shouldn't like give up on my relationship because I really do like her. And I was pretending not to be upset about it and I'll win her back. And I just thought that was so funny. And that it referenced like actual comics.
Yeah. Stan Lee is iconic. I've been rewatching all the Marvel movies in order with my kids, and it's like, I think it's their favorite part ever is finding Stan in these movies. And I had to let them know that he's like only in, you know, up to a certain movie because he passes away, and they were like devastated. I admit, I was kind of right there with them. Like, this is,
but they got like, there's like 10 years of
It's true.
the Marvel Cinematic Universe for them to watch before he passes. So it's like there's they've got so much content to go through. It'll take them a decade to get through it. But
Yeah,
we looked it up because I was like, when was his first cameo? And it was apparently on a Hulk movie in 1989 was the first time he started doing cameo in his movies. And he's tried to always do it when possible with Marvel content.
Yeah, it's funny. They actually, so Kevin Smith and team didn't think that he would even want to be in the movie, so they were actually in the middle of trying to like hire a Stan Lee lookalike to be, and who knows if he had like the same level of role in the original concept. But I guess someone reached out to him anyway, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go and do that." So they were like, "Oh, awesome!" So it worked out very different than what it could have.
Yeah, it became such a staple.
Yeah.
So the one controversial character, or like I guess bit in this movie was, for me, there was this 15-year-old girl who was a senior in high school. Now so this cast of characters are in and around like like they're all in their 20s.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, like Trish, she's 15, she's a senior though. She in high school, she's super smart. She's like this genius, and the whole thing about her character is that she's doing a social experiment about men's sexuality and men's like emotional intelligence, again to bring that up. In she's doing this by sleeping with as many men as possible and filming it and taking notes to write this book, which at the end of the movie we find out has been New York's #1 bestseller list for 72 weeks. And it's like they tried to make this underage kid sleeping with a bunch of men from the ages of, she said, 14 to 50 something.
Yeah, she had like a pretty large range. Yeah.
Yeah. But so she's also so in her experiment, she's also sleeping with underage boys. But anyways, all this to say, it's a little weird. And it's like they try to make it okay by being like, her parents consent to this. And what was the other thing?
And the men consent to it. The men consent to it, and they consent to be videotaped.
But then we find out that Ben Affleck didn't realize when the cops arrest him at the end of this that she was underage.
And
so it's like they don't know that she's underage. They consent to being filmed. And her parents being like, yeah, this is okay. It's a science experiment and it's going to be published, doesn't really make it better because she's a kid.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's a bummer because it's also like a pretty big plot device in the movie. Like it's only because of that. I mean, they certainly could have changed it and made something different, but it's basically only because she films Ben Affleck's skeezy, terrible character having sex with her. That is the reason why Brody is able to make this like giant speech and save his girlfriend from the same fate, right? But but you're right. It is interesting because it does feel like had Kevin Smith not written it the way he did, like if like it raises a lot of red flags, even with Kevin Smith clearly adding in like, it's okay because like they all consent. She consents. Her parents have given permission. It's a science experiment.
Brody does introduce her as a kid and treats her like a kid. Yeah. He does kind of add in, but you could tell like in a joking way, like, I'm still available if you want me for the experiment. Yeah. Ha ha ha. But he does treat her, but I was still like, oh, let's not have underage kids.
Yeah. Dan and I are actually on the same page here. So I thought, I read this the same way that Dan did, that Ben Affleck's character knew she was underage but was playing dumb, like at the end where he's like, I didn't know, like that is how I took that as well. But it's hard to say what the actual truth was.
He was like, what? She's underage? Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, but that part
he would have. I don't think the way his character is portrayed, he would have slept with an underage kid for sure. For sure. Yeah. His character is about also tied into Jeremy London. Him and Jeremy London and Ben Affleck were in Dazed and Confused, and Ben Affleck is also a mega douchebag in that one. And definitely, and Matthew McConaughey, creeps me out.
Maybe that's the one with his twin. We confused Paul earlier in our comments. So So Jeremy London has a twin. Jeremy London is not twins with Jason Lee. They're
no.
not. You were correct on
No,
that.
no.
So yeah.
He in real life, the actor has a twin. Oh, it could be his brother was in the other
So
movie.
I think that's what it is. I thought that his brother was in other Kevin Smith movies, but it's not. I think if I'm remembering correctly, that his twin brother is in Dazed and Confused with Ben Affleck. And Ben Affleck wanted to be in this movie desperately. He wanted to be in Mallrats like desperately, and he was really upset that the only role that he was like able to play or that was able to get was another douchebag, because he was a douchebag. So he was just like, oh,
it is Jason London. It is the other one.
Yeah, so there you go. I'm remembering the facts, you guys.
Hey, at least I can tell the Ashmore twins apart, speaking of acting. Katie didn't realize, so there's two famous Canadian actors, but they're also in a lot of American content, like in the X-Men films, on The Rookie, different people.
I didn't know that they were.
There are two different people. She found out like a month ago. She's like, they're different? There's two of them? I'm like, yes, they're very identical.
I know. Surrounded by twins.
But I can tell them apart.
Yeah,
Jeremy and Jason cannot tell them apart.
Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Well, we should talk a little bit about some of the Easter eggs in this movie. I did not catch any of them because, as we've said a number of times, I'm just not even kind of observant. But there's a lot.
Kevin Smith's shout outs to Canada.
Yes. So Josh is pointing out a lot of them. So Kevin Smith loves Degrassi, which we also love Degrassi.
Loved Degrassi.
So there is a Degrassi jacket in this movie that Shannon Doherty wears. And additional fun fact, Shannon somehow, because she's epic, negotiated into her contract that she got to keep all of the clothes that her character wears.
Nice.
So she if you will notice, because she's clever and awesome, she actually changes outfits like a preposterous amount of times in this movie. Like she was just like literally probably shopping as she's acting. She's like, I'm just going to put this on and now I get to keep it. And I'm just going to put this on. So
they're in a mall.
Yeah, they're in a mall, right? So, but yeah, she wears a Degrassi apparently
I do love
jacket, which
her,
I did not see.
Again, very 90s iconic look, which I think a lot of the kids don't pick up on that. It didn't make it back on this cycle of 90s.
It should.
Is the baseball tees, like the white with but she had like the baby tee where it had like the little cap sleeves for girls.
Yeah.
She had sort of that baseball tee on, which was like such a
girls.
good look. For girls. I mean, if you want to wear a little like cap sleeve baby tee, go for it. Harry Styles probably would. It would look good on him.
Yeah.
What can we do about it?
Yeah.
So when she's breaking up with Brody at the beginning of the movie, he's playing Sega and he's playing an NHL game or a hockey game. The team is the Canucks. He's like, oh, how many times do the Canucks beat the Whalers or whatever it is?
And the Whalers are no longer a team, so they're
So I'm like, that's iconic. And then what else? Oh, and how when they're talking about they ask Jay what superhero he would be, and they suggest like the Hulk or whatever it is they suggest. He's like, no, Wolverine, who is Canadian. The character is Canadian. Wolverine, the superhero, is Canadian. Just in case we didn't know.
I didn't notice this one. Did you notice? So there's an Easter egg where when they're shopping at the flea market mall, apparently, and I don't know if he buys it or if he just sees it, but TS's character walks past or maybe buys a clerk's hat, like baseball hat.
Did not notice that.
And I did not notice that, but I thought that was kind of fun. So there's there's a decent amount of, in addition to a lot of obviously the same actors being in both, it was fun that there's like all these hilarious, amazing moments.
So what I also liked was they go to see a fortune teller at the flea market mall. And she's putting on this like huge like accent and like stereotypical accent, and she's trying to tell them their fortune, and then they're two guys in their 20s, so she's like, oh, like to really get my psychic powers to work, like I have to take my top off, and she has 3 nipples, and they're just like, well, Brody
TS is totally fine.
Yeah, TS doesn't even notice.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you have 3 nipples? Cool. Okay, so tell me about how to fix my relationship. And she just gives them solid advice, and it seems like she's very psychic. And then when she leaves, because you're like, this is like, so the dialogue is pretty crass. Like, Kevin Smith doesn't shy from that, but you're like, oh, this is a little like, and then after it's just a joke, she rips off the 3rd nipple and she eats it like it's a
Pepperoni.
like a gummy bear or whatever,
Yeah,
like
pepper, yeah.
candy. And I'm just like, that is so funny. It's like even she has like this sort of gag and side hustle going, and it's like all of the characters have this sort of cleverness to them that I enjoyed. The third nipple smack.
I did.
Also,
I know. I did love. So Paul noticed the hat. So props to Paul. He gets surprised for noticing the hat. I'm with. So it's so funny. Dan says that the fortune teller scene he skips. I was always the person who, like, I distinctly remember that scene always was like, ugh, whatever. I don't want to see this scene. And this time around, I watched all the way through, and I totally agree with you, Nat. It was when I was originally watching it, it always came across as like crass for no real purpose, and I was like, whatever, I don't need to see this. But rewatching it, I do like it is actually pretty clever, like from start to finish. So yeah,
I mean,
a good
she
one.
fully recognizes that they're not buying.
She plays them.
it.
Yeah,
Completely plays them and helps them out. This is their like light bulb moment. But I like she's just like, they're 20-year-old boys. Like, let me just take my top off.
I also.
Like, I'm like, you get it, girl.
I also love that it totally flips it on its head. So, so Brody is so like, he's like, well, we've got to go see the the topless fortune teller and like blah, 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 topless fortune teller. And we've got to see this topless fortune teller. He's like so into it. And then the second she takes off her shirt, he literally cannot look at her. He's like, hands over his face, can't look at her, can't acknowledge her at all. So like she still wins, which is kind of fantastic. Like she's not ogled because she's
and he just can't stop freaking out. Like she's talking with TS, they have a dialogue going, and he's just in full panic meltdown.
Yeah.
I also like at the beginning when Brody, so TS wants to try and make up with Brandy, his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So before they go to the mall, they go to her house. But like, so these news agencies and tabloids are following him around because at the beginning of the movie, the governor is at a cocktail party or fundraiser of some kind where Brandy's dad is trying to get funding from her for his TV station or to elevate his TV station from like local bumpkin, like they read out the lottery to a network show. So TS is an actor and he is in some play where he's in some colonial garb, like uniform, military uniform, and he has a musket. Wildly, the musket is loaded with blanks. And Brandy's on the roof doing some research homework or whatever for school. And he goes up to see her before his play and they have a fight and his musket gets caught in her hair and the gun fires off. And though it's blanks, the governor's security team like freaks out. So then he's in the news for trying to assassinate the governor, which is not at all what happened. It was just, two 20-year-olds having a ridiculous fight. And why is his musket loaded? Like, even with blanks, like it's a stage production.
Obviously, you don't live in New England. The muskets are always loaded with blanks. They have them in like parades. It's like just a thing around here.
Well, I don't even know why guns in movies, especially nowadays with all of our computer skills, have blanks in them at all. Like, why are there bullets in guns? I don't, anyways, I don't get it. But so all of that, he goes over. So the two guys the next morning go over to Brandy's so TS can try and apologize. And Brody's like, I'll distract the news crew. It's a tabloid crew that's there. So he distracts them by saying, hey, I'm the neighbors. I live next to them this whole, like, for 20 years or whatever it is. And, they're really into satanic rituals. And he starts describing all these satanic rituals and then gets the camera crews like, oh, and the newscaster's like, oh my God, this is the best story of all time. And then they go up and they film the dad, like, dancing after getting out of the shower. Like, he's, doing some like macho shadow boxing in the glare of his television, and his towel drops, so they film him nude. I thought scene was so funny.
I think so. Now that you're going through all this, I agree. I thought that scene was awesome, but also
I love the
I'm remembering. I'm remembering that Brandy's father is my least favorite character, even more so than Trisha.
He's terrible.
He's like, badly written and way over the top. And if he was actually her father, I'm really concerned for her well-being. Like, she's like got to be very damaged as a person. He's much for me. I mean, I know it's like he's meant to be kind of over the top and crazy, but I'm like, wow, he's a lot, like way over the top and way crazy. Yeah.
I also love at the end of the movie, so he's the one who's filming this dating show at the mall.
Yeah.
And Brandy, one of the reasons that they start their fight, TS and Brandy, is because she's going to be the contestant on the show. The dad is using it as an excuse to break her and TS up.
Meanwhile, a woman dies in order for like they're like, which is a little like, I love how they just kind of like gloss over that. They're like she just dies. She's dead. And so we're just gonna continue.
Which I feel like the dad just made that all up to get her, to guilt her into going onto the show, to find her a suitable boyfriend.
Sure.
Like, because he basically admits, like, I'm doing this to get rid of you because
he's
you're
problematic.
Yeah, he's super problematic.
Super problematic. Yeah.
So they're filming this in the mall, and to get TS out of the mall, he calls the police.
Yeah.
And the police end up showing up once. So TS's big plan to win her back is he's like, Jay and Silent Bob are going to get the contestants really stoned. So then Brody and I have to go on to replace them.
Yeah, it's a good plan.
Good plan. And he wins her back by having a big fight with her again. It's like, sweetie, you need to get on with the... Anyways, they work it out in the end. It's great. But the whole police force comes out and are chasing them through the mall. Like, there's just like 20 cops there. And I'm like, but for what? Like, for what? Like, when this like executive producer of this show or whatever calls, is like, hey, there's some kid here. I don't
at
like
the
him.
Mall. Yeah.
Like, my daughter's ex-boyfriend is at the mall. Can you get rid of him? Like, what was that conversation? Why did so many cops come for this? I mean, it worked out in the end because then they arrested him for airing underage porn, like kiddie porn, which was actually Ben Affleck douche sleeping with his character sleeping with Trish, who's underage.
We're not defaming Ben Affleck.
No, the guy's fine. He gives us really grumpy Batman memes. I love it. Okay, like, it's the man having the worst time in the world.
Yeah.
But so it worked out that all these were there. But like, why? How did they all get there, and why?
Yeah,
that's my question.
Yeah. So there's a few things about this movie I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of the father, and I'm not really a fan of the Trisha storyline. And Dan is upset that we have not yet talked about the sailboat, which I agree is like absolutely one of the probably the best. So raise your hand if you could actually see the magic eye things. I think we asked this at the end of the last episode, but we're like, were you one of the? I maybe once have seen the magic eye things. Even worse, apparently. So if you have not seen this movie, there is a character who spends the entire movie trying to see the sailboat in a magic eye, and everyone who walks by is like, oh, it's a sailboat. Oh, it's a sailboat. And then one kid's like, oh, it's a schooner. He's like, haha, it's a sailboat. But a schooner is a sailboat, so it really doesn't work out well for him. But apparently the actual picture is not even a magic eye. There's actually like no sail. So they didn't even give him like a real magic eye to stare at for the entire movie, which makes me so sad. Like,
oh, why is it? However, it was printed, and I don't know if
it's not actually magic. It's literally just like geometric shapes. They were just like, it's not a magic eye.
But how it translates on the screen, it looked like it to me. My eyes interpreted it as it was like moving, and it made me nauseous.
Yeah,
and I'm like, it's not even a real magic eye, and it still made me sick to my stomach.
Well, yeah. So that part is absolutely fantastic, and that character is awesome. And I like I said, every single character in this movie is fantastic, with exception of maybe Trisha and the dad. those are my two.
Trisha's fine.
Yeah, it's not her character, it's her storyline.
It's her storyline that concerns me. She's actually great. She's smart, she's intelligent, she's like hyper intelligent.
Yeah.
And takes shit from nobody. Like, she has all of these idiot boys in this movie like under control.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
I know. She's totally fine with being like, oh yeah, I'll run home and get that tape for you. She doesn't even have her driver's license, and she just like borrows a car and drives home. Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
So I think my one other big question, other than why was there blanks in the musket?
Mm-hmm.
Why did all the cops show up? And most importantly, why was the head of mall security wearing a little Riviera straw boat hat?
Yeah, I don't
Because
know.
none of the other mall security guys had it.
No, I don't know. He was just
I
meant to
don't
look crazy, meant to like, I don't know. Yeah.
like every time I'm like, but why?
I mean, mall security
Why?
people in real life and in every single movie are always like a little off. So maybe it was just like, it made him feel a little off. That's my,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we're
Oh,
nearing the
and
end, but we haven't talked about Jaws in this movie, and Paul's dropping in some facts for us to remember.
oh, fun.
But so, and I actually didn't notice this until after when I was reading facts, but I noticed, so the TS's amazing plan is he was originally going to propose to Brandy at Universal, and he wanted to be able to propose to her in front of the Jaws ride, of which I don't think is actually at Universal anymore, which breaks my heart because I still would have absolutely loved to be on that ride. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's there anymore. But apparently Brody is named after the main character in Jaws, which is one of the favorite films of Kevin Smith. And not just Brody. Brody, TS's last name, Quint, is also a reference to Jaws, and Brandy is also. So like there's a few of the characters.
So the main
that are all
characters.
Jaws. Yeah.
That's
And they do
awesome.
end up getting married at the ride, so they don't
On the Jaws ride.
on the
Yeah.
Jaws ride. So it does
They're on the boat.
work out at the end. But again, I just feel like Kevin Smith and us would be friends because he's just clever. And he's clever in that, like,
He likes Canadians.
He likes Canadians. I'm sure it took him forever to just think through like dialogue that's so clever and have to that's one thing I've never I feel like both of us are pretty good at writing character dialogue. I'll give that to us.
Yeah,
but connecting
we
it
have that
all and
criticism
like
in our books a lot. It's like you
pulling
should
in the
write
references. Yeah, pulling in the references I feel like would be tricky. Like because that
with this movie, it's that he keeps getting the dialogue very smoothly, keeps bringing back like some running gag from earlier in the movie. Like the kid that gets, so the clip we watched at the beginning, the kid, by the way, does get stuck in the escalator.
Yeah, it comes back later. It's fantastic.
Love it.
In the background.
It's not funny that a child gets hurt, and they don't show it.
They don't show
but
it.
it's hilarious because Brody's been screaming about this the whole movie.
And he doesn't even notice it when they literally are just like security guards running in the background screaming that there's a kid caught in the escalator, and it's fantastic.
He's in the middle of one of his unraveling moments.
They're just like running by in the background. Like you could totally miss it if you're not paying attention, which is amazing.
Yes. Oh, Dan saying that they do have Jaws at Universal in LA still.
Okay.
I knew that because I watched or saw or heard a podcast with Trixie Mattel, who was mentioning that she loves that ride at Universal.
Well,
so random. Just listened to that like yesterday. So I knew that even though I've never been.
Well, Josh is with you, Nat. He says, "Stop! Don't view that plot hole. It keeps us from going insane from things like blanks in a musket." Yeah, it's true. You just got to look away from the plot hole sometimes, like blanks in a. Although I will say, again,
I mean, it's funny because it makes me talk about it. Like I can't let it go. Why? But I also just don't understand why guns. So
yeah,
I have a lot of struggle with that one. So yeah. I think quite a few of us do, but that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Blanks. So, what do we rate it this week? Tater tots, get your ratings in.
Yeah, maybe it's sailboats, because it could be a sailboat rating. I had a hard time with this one, and I mean, our rating system is entirely pretend, so let's just start by saying that. But I feel like it's really difficult because a lot of what no, I take it back. I was going to say a lot of what makes me love this movie is the nostalgia of it, like both my memories of watching it originally, how quotable it is, and the quotes that still are in my head 24/7, and the like thinking back to how awesome it was to spend all of that time at the mall. But then now that we've talked about it in detail, I actually think it's just very well written. So I stand by the rating.
So at the beginning, Katie and I were discussing before we logged on. like, should it be 3 potatoes? I'm like, I'm giving it a whole potato just for the writing,
Yeah.
just for the
Yeah.
dialogue, and for Kevin Smith being like, the women are gonna get the fastest, the wittiest, the best dialogue.
Yeah.
Though I do love Jason Lee, like, Brody's complete and total utter chaos on the dating show. I love that. Like, all of
Yeah.
that was funny.
All of the dating show stuff was funny. I mean, it
Oh,
just,
so good.
I don't know.
And I have
Bill
to
was
say, at the
equally
end of the
funny.
movie, like, I know the premise of the movie opens up on, or not the premise, but the plot of the movie opens up on the TS and Brandy breaking up and then getting back together. But for me, it was when Brody got back together with his girlfriend, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like, see, he can be a better person.
And finally once, I know, that's because you and I were just like, whatever with TS. We're like, we're in it for Brody. Oh my gosh. Well, Dan says, in spite of earlier conversations where he was like, I don't know, we'll see. He gives it 5 Cinnabons. We didn't convince Paul. Paul's only at two sailboats, so Paul can pick the next movie. This is not one. We'll have to see if we convince Josh. Josh hasn't watched this one yet, but is a big fan of Degrassi, so maybe we can talk him into it. I feel like if you're a fan of Degrassi, you should at least give Kevin Smith a chance. Well, we already kind of teased it, but we're at 4. I was like, it's so funny when I was originally like starting to watch it and feeling like the feels of the nostalgia hitting me. I was like, I don't know, maybe it's like a 2.5, because it's not really like, it's not like the best movie, but I just really like it. But then now that we talked about it, I feel good about a 4. I feel good about a 4.
I mean, 1 potato is not for the movie, but just for the writing. Like,
Yeah,
just for the
I love a fast-paced, like, I wish that everyone actually spoke like that, and no one really does, or very few people do. But I would like to live in a world where that is the level of dialogue that we have with each other, wherever it is, mall or otherwise.
I remember when Gilmore Girls came out, because they also have that really fast dialogue and a lot of movie references and the sort of wit in their dialogue between mother and daughter, or grandmother, mother and daughter, and however it goes. And I remember somebody saying like, yeah, but it's so unrealistic. Nobody talks like that. I'm like, Ooh, well, we do.
We'd like to think we do. Maybe we don't.
I mean, we're not super funny. I mean, we do funny things, but not usually on purpose.
True story.
Yeah.
True story. I might have to post one of my outtakes. So I think I was recording the fun facts. I'm trying to catch up on my fun facts video this week because I'm on vacation this week. I'm on like staycation. And so I've been doing really well. I think I have like something like 10 movies left to do facts for, which seems like a lot, but is doable. But anyway, so I was doing the like 3 facts that you might not know about this movie. And I literally whacked myself in the face. And I was like, I'll keep going. I'm like, no, I won't. And I stopped. So it's a really epic. We now have bloopers on our fun facts. So
Nice.
We're moving up in the world. Well, Josh says that he hasn't seen the movie yet, but he's giving us 5 escalators for convincing him to watch it. We'll take it. There should be an escalator emoji. I feel like that's really missing in the world. All right,
Do we still have escalators?
I know. So it's so funny. There are some escalators left. There are still malls left in our area, although they're not like actual malls to me. But the airport still has an escalator. So my kids like have not been on an escalator very often. And Scarlett is very nervous around them. Like she's like the kid that's like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Stepping but not like no.
She's got a healthy level of fear for the escalator, which is probably fine.
At the university that I work at, there's escalators in one of its main buildings where where classes are.
Yeah.
And it's this giant escalator. It looks like something from an airport. We
pretty
actually even
large,
call the lobby, like the lobby, I don't know if kids still call it that, but the lobby used to be called the airport for that university because it looks like an airport. And the escalator, when it would get a lot of use, say around like 3:30 when classes would the afternoon classes would let out, there'd be like thousands of people using this escalator for like an hour. It would take longer. Like if you could just like run up or down the like 15 flights in the building, it was much faster than taking the escalator. But there's so many people and so much weight on the escalators, they would stop. Like they would just break down with everybody on it. So when you're on it and it's like you're squished like sardines on this escalator, and you have to like death grip onto the side, like the railing of it, because you know by like 4:15 that thing is going to stop and everybody's going to pitch forward.
No.
And it's so big and it's so steep. I'm like, it's a miracle nobody has killed themselves on these things.
Yeah. Well, you can't sit on them. As we've learned from this movie.
Are good.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think we had already decided that next week is Death Becomes Her. Yeah? You're in for the outfit of it all. So we'll do that. But if anyone has ideas for the following week, we could get out ahead. We can get out ahead of things. I definitely am gonna go down a path and watch at least Dogma, because now that I've seen this one, I'm like, I need to rewatch Dogma.
I remember Dogma the most, but that's probably because it's the newest. I need to rewatch Chasing Amy, I think.
I was never a huge Chasing Amy fan. I definitely preferred Clerks and Mallrats to Chasing Amy, but I could give it another chance. I could be swayed. Yeah. I could be swayed.
But
Dane said his favorite is Dogma, which is not surprising for his personality.
Yeah, I think most people's favorite was Dogma, if I remember correctly. I actually also really like Clerks 2.
I've never seen Clerks 3, which maybe is okay, or maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, there's a 3. I think it's newer, so like fairly recent. But yeah, I
love Clerks 3. Jay does this whole Buffalo Bill thing that gets me every time. It is so funny and so like out of pocket. There's no reason for that scene to be in there. Like it's like Rosario Dawson is doing something in the fast food restaurant, and then there might have been a goat. Anyways, I don't remember. And then
there was
it just like flashes to a donkey, was it? I can't remember. I literally, the last time I saw Clerks 2 was in theaters when it came out.
Yeah, so I feel like Clerks 2 has.
And I remember it cuts to like behind the fast food restaurant, and Jason Mewes is just doing his full Buffalo Bill, and I'm like, what?
Oh, there you go. Clerks.
So good.
Clerks 3 came out only 2 years ago, so I'm about ready to watch it, because I can't, like, if it's too new, I can't see that. I can't see that. Okay, well, so next week is Death Becomes Her. If you have not seen this one, I've either not seen it, or it's been a very, very long time since I've seen it.
The last time I saw it was most definitely on VHS.
Okay,
rental.
So I may not have seen this one, so this could be an adventure.
I don't feel like you have. It was
a
donkey show in Clerks.
It was yeah, I was gonna say, I was pretty sure it was a sex donkey something. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll have to watch Clerks 3 at some point too. So, all right. Well, next week, Death Becomes Her, and thank you so much for hanging out with us for the Mallrats episode. If you are listening or watching later, you can always join us most Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube to hang out in our live studio audience, where we take awesome requests like Mallrats. So great job, Dan. Thanks for sharing that one. We still have to get Val to give us a request, because she wasn't on tonight, but I feel like if Val has seen it.
What movie have you watched, Val?
If Val has seen it, it's gonna be a good one. So, because she does not use her time that way, so I feel like we need to get a Val request in. We need another Paul request too, and we need some Josh requests. We have some updated requests we've got to collect in. But next week will be Death Becomes Her. And you can listen or watch wherever you'd like. And you can swing by our new website, thevhsclubpod.com. Leave us a voicemail. No one has, even though I ask every single week on all of my shows, because all of my shows have voicemail. No.
Paul promised us 100 voicemails this week. We did not get them.
I didn't get any. Paul's been working really hard this week, so I can't really judge him. So that's okay. He's doing other more important things. And Val has a gig tonight, so she's also doing more important things. But they'll catch up afterwards and send in their movie review by voicemail. I know. You know what? So we should see a Dane request. So Dane, who I don't think is listening or watching right now, Dane will immediately choose Gattaca. That is like one of Dane's favorite movies. I don't even know if it's Dane's favorite movie, but every time, so Dane is the person that he'll say something like, "Hey, would you like to watch a movie tonight?" And to normal people who are not Dane and Katie, that would mean like one of the newer movies, but not Dane. Dane has a very specific list, and it is very bizarre. So like, you know how we have a movie list that we're working our way through? He's got one that's probably close to that length, but it is it's a wild ride. Like it's got every possible thing. Like he's brand new things that are very strange, things that are, black and white movies. And he's got he is foreign probably films. The most foreign films. He's a much better person than I am. He's got a very specific list of movies. So yeah, we should
Also,
definitely.
fun fact, Dane hates horror movies of any genre of like gore and horror. But every once in a while, he'll find like a really good trailer to a movie that he knows Katie and I will love.
Yep.
So he's such a mensch. He'll send it to us. Like, he's
knowing
just
that
like,
I'll never watch the trailer, and then
like,
we'll watch the
horrifying. I think
we'll
you girls will love it.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
And then we'll watch the movie later, and I'll be like, "Wow, I didn't even know about this movie," and he'll be like, "I sent you the trailer for this." Yeah, so that's Dane's choices. But yeah, well, I will ask him what is at the top of his list, and maybe we can even convince him to come on an episode to review with us. So, yeah. Oh no, Josh, can't find the voicemail thing. All right, well, we'll have to drop the link in so that you can click right through to leave a voicemail, because that would be really fun. All right, friends. Well, we are going to jump off. We're having too much fun tonight, but we will see you next week, 9 p.m. Eastern here on YouTube if you're hanging out for the live recording. Otherwise, we'll catch you wherever and whenever you want to listen to us. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.